They asked me to take the family photos, said I had a steady hand. You're always so reliable. Mom smiled, slipping the strap of the camera around my neck. Try to get everyone before dessert. I looked down at the list she handed me, group shots Candid's one big reunion photo in front of the fountain. Printed in bold at the top, Langford Family 2024 Reunion, hosted by Olivia Langford and guests. Guests. I guess that's what I was now. They hadn't even given me a seat. The tables were arranged in a wide semicircle on the back lawn, crisp white linens catching the afternoon sun. I counted them 9 full rounds, 8 seats each, all with place cards in careful cursive. Not a single one had my name. Hey, Grace, Uncle Ron called out, lifting his wine glass. Can you get a shot of this table? Olivia really knocked it out of the park, huh? I nodded and raised the camera, framing them like strangers. I'd RSVP'd early. I'd flown in. I'd even brought a gift, a hand-bound album I'd spent weeks compiling, full of scanned photos from past reunions. I didn't see it anywhere on the welcome table. I did see Olivia in a linen jumpsuit and block heels, walking with purpose between guests. She was glowing. Of course she was. The golden child always knew where the light was. Can you believe she got us this resort? Aunt Margie whispered behind me. Her connections really came through. The corner of my mouth twitched. Connections. Right. I turned toward the garden path that led to my assigned room. It wasn't in the main lodge or even the guest villas. It was a converted maintenance shed behind the pool house. Temporary staff quarters, the clerk had called it apologetically. Room 12B, no view, no toiletries. But it did have a thin set of twin beds and a stack of folded towels, the kind you'd find in employee housing. I sat on the edge of the mattress, still holding the camera. They hadn't forgotten me. They'd remembered just enough to use me. And somehow that was worse. I wasn't always the one behind the camera. There are photos. Faded, overexposed snapshots from the 80s, where I'm front and center, gap-toothed, muddy-kneed, clutching a papier-mâché volcano or a spelling bee ribbon. In those, Mom's hand rests on my shoulder. Her smile is real if distant. Then Olivia was born. 4 years younger, she came with glitter and praise. Wide eyes, perfect curls, a laugh that echoed like wind chimes. People bent toward her naturally. They always have. I was 9 when Mom first used the phrase, "let her have her moment." It was my piano recital. I had practiced Clair de Lune for weeks. Olivia, 5 at the time, interrupted halfway through to do a twirl in front of the living room. Everyone clapped. I finished the piece in silence. At 10, I brought home a handmade card for Mother's Day watercolor and pressed lavender. Olivia gave her a song. Off-key, forgettable. Mom cried. You girls are so different, she'd say, looking at us like we were flavors she couldn't quite reconcile. Grace is steady. Olivia is sunshine. I learned what to be. Helpful, uncomplicated, quiet. By high school, I stopped asking them to come to my debates. Olivia was always in something theater cheer, some club Mom had to bake for. I once overheard Dad tell a neighbor, Grace, she's our grounded one. Doesn't need much attention. That wasn't true. I just learned how to go without it. College was a scramble of scholarships, dorm jobs, late-night tutoring sessions. I didn't come home for breaks. I couldn't afford to financially or emotionally. Olivia stayed local, took a gap year, dated musicians, artists, flirted with acting. When she posted a moody black and white portrait captioned, "Not all who wander are lost," Mom shared it on Facebook with my brilliant baby. When Dad's consulting firm collapsed in 2010, it was me they called. Their voices trembled on the phone. The house might go. We just need a buffer, just a little help. I wired $5,000 that night, then another 5 the next month. Over a year, I sent nearly $30,000, skipped vacations, deferred my student loans. They kept the house. No one mentioned it again. Later, when Mom had a minor health scare, a word she liked to use like a leash, she hinted at hospital bills piling up. Olivia had just gotten engaged to a tech startup guy named Matthew. She wanted to recreate Grandma's ring, but didn't have the funds. 2 weeks later, I sent $15,000. I got a thank you card. Signed, Love Mom. No return address. The ring showed up on Olivia's Instagram a month later. Oval cut set in platinum captioned, Family Traditions Reborn. No one tagged me. When I asked gently just once about the medical expenses, Mom replied, "I thought you gave it freely." Then added, "It's not like you have children to worry about." That's how it always went. My usefulness was mentioned only when needed. My silence was expected. My stability assumed. I was the one who remembered birthdays, who sent thoughtful gifts, who paid for Aunt Rachel's surgery when her insurance lapsed. The one who organized a virtual memorial when Grandpa died during the lockdown. I wasn't invited to the in-person gathering they held later. There were restrictions, Olivia said. You wouldn't have wanted to risk it. That was the year I stopped sending holiday cards. No one noticed. I moved cities, launched my own business. Quietly, deliberately, I began acquiring boutique properties in distressed markets, hotels, inns, beach houses with potential. The Langford family had always vacationed at the coast. Same place, same porch, same traditions. That resort had come up for sale 6 months ago. I recognized the name instantly. Drove out alone, walked the grounds, smelled the mildew in the curtains, saw the sagging deck rails. It was tired, forgotten, just like I'd been. I bought it anyway, closed through a holding company, rebranded discreetly, began renovations. And when I saw the family email from Olivia, guess what? I got us the perfect venue for this year's reunion. Trust me, you're going to love it. I said nothing. Let them book it. Let them gather on ground they thought was theirs. I didn't need an invitation. I already had the keys. Success came quietly. There was no breakthrough moment, no champagne cork or viral article. Just years of showing up, saving, learning when to speak and when to let other people take credit, letting my name stay small while my value grew behind the scenes. I lived alone in a top-floor apartment I never showed on social media. The view wasn't dramatic, just a narrow stretch of skyline framed by telephone wires, but it was mine, paid in full. I traveled when I wanted to, worked when I chose. Took meetings in quiet cafes, negotiated contracts in my own name, bought small buildings others had written off, turned them, held some, let others go. I never told anyone in the family what I did. The last time I tried years ago, Mom blinked and said, "Oh, like Airbnb?" I said yes. It was easier. I heard Olivia had started a lifestyle blog, then a podcast, then some kind of consulting. She posted selfies in airports and wrote captions about gratitude. Her voice was everywhere, even when she wasn't saying anything. Mine stayed where it had always been, off to the side, working. When the property listing came across my desk, I recognized it before I read the address. Seacliff Grove Inn, once a family staple. Beige clapboard siding, rocking chairs on every porch, a fountain that never quite worked. The place with mosquito bites, board games, and the scent of low tide. Where Dad grilled too much corn and Mom insisted Olivia had the voice of an angel during beach karaoke. I hadn't been back in over a decade. The resort was in distress financially, structurally, cosmetically. Years of neglect under new management, occupancy down, reviews sour. The owners were desperate. I bought it in silence, not for nostalgia, not for revenge. I bought it because I could. A shell company handled the paperwork. I kept the staff, approved modest renovations, new linens, fresh paint, better lighting. I didn't change the name. I didn't need to. I told no one, not even when I saw the group booking come through. Langford Family Reunion, 42 guests, submitted by Olivia Langford. Email signature, Olivia Langford, lifestyle curator and event strategist. That made me laugh. Just once, sharp and low. The staff prepped the space, upgraded a few rooms, offered the family a promotional package through my firm's hospitality division. Olivia accepted. Called it a favor from a friend in the industry. I let her believe that. I even ensured she got the suite with the balcony, the good light, and the wine fridge. She would expect that. She always did. I didn't ask for a room. I didn't call ahead. I simply showed up, luggage in hand, and watched the front desk clerk pause as my name lit up the screen. Her eyes widened slightly. Ms. Langford. Of course. She handed me the keys to room 12B. Temporary staff housing, 2 twin beds, 1 window. I nodded, said thank you, and walked toward the back of the property. No protest, no correction. Let them play their parts. Let them think I was there by accident. I arrived at the welcome dinner 10 minutes early. No one noticed. The courtyard was dressed in fairy lights, rented drapery, and thin optimism. Paper lanterns bobbed above the buffet tables. Folded menus bore Olivia's signature in looping gold script. A cousin I hadn't seen in years greeted me with vague warmth, the kind reserved for distant aunts or tolerated exes. I returned the smile, said nothing. Aunt Margie waved me over to rearrange folding chairs. I did. A niece handed me a stack of napkins and whispered, "Aunt Olivia said you know how to fold these the fancy way." I didn't, but I nodded. My name wasn't on the place cards. Again. I found a seat at the overflow table tucked near the back beside the restroom sign and a struggling potted fern. No centerpiece, no candle. Across the lawn, Olivia twirled in a blush silk maxi dress, hugging relatives, fielding compliments, curating photos over her shoulder. Every few minutes, someone raised a glass to her. She planned this entire weekend. She negotiated the group rate herself. Her taste, it's just impeccable. I cut into my chicken, chewed slowly. Midway through the meal, a staff member approached the head table. He was young, nervous, holding a clipboard. I recognized him from the resort orientation packets. He whispered something to Olivia, who blinked, then said, "That's not what we discussed." The labels were supposed to be in rose gold, not silver. The server apologized. She waved him away. A few minutes later, another staffer approached me. She looked vaguely familiar. Front desk, maybe housekeeping. She paused beside my table, eyes scanning a printed list. Then she leaned down. "Ms. Langford, just wanted to confirm tomorrow's brunch layout. 6 long tables, printed programs, no alcohol until after speeches." I glanced up. "That's fine." She nodded. "We've added your name to the staff directory. Any changes, just text me directly." Then she walked away. No one at my table reacted. No one had heard her. But I sat back just slightly and let the weight of that moment settle. They still had me listed in the system, not as a guest, not as family, as the owner. They didn't know, but the walls did, the floorboards did. The windows, the locks, the contract that paid for every chair, every napkin, every lantern they now called beautiful, they all knew. And tomorrow, so would everyone else. Brunch was held in the garden pavilion. Soft jazz played over the speakers. The tables were dressed in ivory linen with eucalyptus runners. Centerpieces of white peonies stood in crystal vases. A backdrop near the stage read "The Langford Legacy" in looping cursive. I arrived late on purpose. Most of the family was already seated, filling coffee cups, flipping through printed programs that Olivia had designed. She stood at the podium near the stage, beaming as the event manager handed her a clipboard. Matthew, her fiancé, trailed behind her like a well-trained shadow. They looked like a magazine spread. I slipped into a chair near the rear. No one noticed. The manager tapped the microphone. "Before we begin, we'd like to thank the venue for going above and beyond and hosting this special weekend. The staff, the presentation, the coordination, every detail has been exceptional. Polite applause." He continued, "And most of all, we're honored to recognize our newest partner and majority shareholder, the person who made this weekend possible." He turned slightly, raised his glass, to Ms. Grace Langford. Silence. Chairs creaked, forks paused mid-air. A few heads turned toward the back. My name hung in the air, suspended like dust. I stood. Not quickly, just enough to be seen. Olivia blinked, her mouth opened, then closed. Mom stared at me like I'd spoken in a language she didn't understand. I didn't raise my glass. I didn't smile. I walked slowly toward the stage heels, quiet on stone. The manager stepped aside. Olivia remained frozen, still holding the clipboard. I stopped near the microphone, didn't touch it. "I hope you're enjoying brunch," I said. My voice carried not loud, but clear. "I'm glad everyone made it this year. It's a beautiful space, excellent food, good light for photos." A few nervous chuckles. I looked around the pavilion. When I bought this property 6 months ago, I didn't know the family would return here. But when I saw the group booking come through under Olivia's name, I approved it. I turned to her. "At a discount." Olivia flushed. Matthew reached for her elbow, but she pulled away. I didn't change the name. I continued. Didn't need to. I just paid for the things that matter: the foundation, the roof, the staff, the chairs. I let the silence stretch. For a while, I wondered if I should say something, if I should clarify my role. But then I realized you already had a version of me that worked better. The helper, the extra hand, the one with the camera. Mom's face shifted confusion, then something sharper. She opened her mouth. I raised my hand. "I'm not angry," I said. "I just don't want to be invisible anymore." I stepped back, left the microphone untouched. As I turned, I saw Claire, my cousin, watching me from 2 tables over. She nodded. Just once. It was enough. I walked out of the pavilion without a word, past the fountain, past the long buffet line, past the chalkboard sign that read, "Welcome home." The air smelled like citrus and apology. Behind me, I heard nothing. No footsteps, no applause. Only the sound of silverware being quietly set down. I didn't go back to the pavilion. I walked past the check-in desk, past the empty front porch where rocking chairs creaked gently in the breeze. My suitcase was already packed. I had planned to leave after brunch regardless of what happened. The valet didn't ask for my ticket. He recognized me now. As I stepped toward the car, I heard footsteps behind me. Grace. I didn't turn. "Grace, wait." Mom's voice. I stopped but didn't face her. She came up beside me out of breath, holding her purse like a shield. Her blouse was rumpled, one earring missing. She looked smaller in daylight. "You didn't have to make a scene," she said quietly. "You could have told us privately." I kept my gaze on the gravel drive. "I did tell you," I said. "Every time I helped, every time I stayed quiet. That was me telling you." She swallowed. "This weekend was for family." I nodded. "And I'm family." She hesitated. "I don't know what you want me to say. You don't need to say anything." I opened the car door. She touched my arm. "You embarrassed Olivia." I looked at her then. She embarrassed herself. I got in, closed the door. Through the window, I watched her take a step back. Her mouth moved, but no words came. After a moment, she turned and walked away, not quickly, not defiantly. Just slowly, like someone who wasn't sure where to go. The car pulled forward, past the garden where Olivia posed for someone else's camera now, past the sign that still bore our name. The resort would host other families, other reunions, other people who understood how to see each other fully. But I wouldn't be among them. Not anymore. I didn't leave angry. I left full. Of memory. Of clarity. Of silence that finally belonged to me. Maybe you've been there too. Standing at the edge of a family you kept trying to belong to. Maybe you've handed over time, money, years just to stay in the frame. And maybe, like me, you learned that walking away doesn't mean you gave up. It means you stopped waiting to be erased. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who understands. Someone who's had to build peace from silence. And if you're still finding your voice, know this. You are not alone, and you were never invisible, not here, not to us.